country freed by the power of e-Kranti.
Digital India takes forward the existing programs which are running on governance sector and other sectors, but that actually weaves them into a fabric, weaves them into a structure so that in a harmonious manner they are able to deliver maximum impact.
The government aims to upscale and ramp up e-governance initiatives across the country through the National E-Governance Plan 2.0.
These three numbers, Aadhaar number for identity, mobile number for connectivity, and account number for financial inclusion. All these three numbers are numbers of empowerment which every person must have, and this is very much a part of Digital India.
To make all government services accessible to the citizens and ensure productivity, transparency and reliability at reasonable costs is the real challenge. This session will discuss framework for enhancing delivery of services for various e-governance initiatives.
E-Kranti, electronic delivery of services, an initiative that will make all government services accessible to us as citizens. Please welcome the panel for this session, Dr. Jayjeet Bhattacharya, Partner, Infrastructure and Government Services, KPMG. Dr. Rajendra Kumar, Joint Secretary, Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. Vishal Agarwal, Founder and CEO, Spatial Ideas Web Solutions. Ashwini Kumar Sharma, CEO and MD, National Institute of Electronics and IT at DAITY. Soman Chakrabarti, CEO and MD, Intellisys Technologies and Research. And the moderator for this session, Thampi Koshi, Partner Advisory Services, EY.
We in India have been attempting to bring this digital revolution for many years. Now the new government has decided that this is going to be a key plank in bringing about the growth agenda that they have thought for. And e-Kranti, that's the topic of our discussion, is one of the pillars, which is about electronic service delivery. We have made some wonderful success of number of e-governance or IT-enabled government projects in the country. UN does a survey every year about a e-governance development index. It's called short form EGDI. We have been sort of lying in somewhere in the level of 110 to 120 for the past so many years. Then why is it not happening? How come some of them are succeeding and many of them are failing? So what I'm requesting as them is to spend about 2 to 3 minutes each, giving your point of view on some of these broader issues. So can I ask from that side to just...
Sure. So I think essentially before we describe what we're going to kind of achieve through the implementation of Digital India, it's very important to understand what the problem areas are. And the problem areas are, I think if we take a step just before, make in India and made in India, I think we have to say think in India, make in India, and then offer those services as made in India. If we say that, when we say think in India, we're talking about essentially innovation. When I talk about innovation, we are talking about disruptive innovation. Now taking a step backwards, we say that what are the problem areas? The problem areas are, if you just take three service delivery areas, e-governance, education, and healthcare. Each one, we all know that it's going to be approximately, it's going to take 25 years to make a doctor and 30 years to make a teacher, and a baby will be born every minute. So we're not going to have a billion-seater institute or a billion-bed hospital. So the only way you can do that is extend the reach of the teacher and the doctor. The second part is, can we the interactions between the government as well as the citizens in terms of citizen empowerment or in terms of other things that the government plans to do, can it be done in a much more efficient and organized way? If you're looking at the demographics, then we are talking about 40% of the people below the literacy level, 33% do not know how to handle the internet. What are the best service delivery models? Is it data? Is it video? Is it a combination of data and video? Or is it a combination of everything? On the second part, we have network access. In network access, we're essentially talking about taking the fiber or the VSAT or any particular device to the last mile. The last mile, of course, needs to be achieved and has to be done. But what is the underlying architecture that's going to allow you to do from 1 million to 1 billion accounts in the financial inclusion part. How can you take care of that? The third part is relating to devices. The only physical device that's reached every Indian village is a mobile handset. Now, if that's where your service delivery mechanism and point has to be, then how are you going to ensure that the mobile whose processing power is low, the mobile whose bandwidth usage through the multiple G usage we all know, even in the cities we face a problem. So how are you going to take it to the next level in the village? Now, there are solutions, and I will describe those solutions as we go along. And probably I'll leave it to my fellow panelists to take it forward from there.
If you look at what we have achieved primarily in the last 10 years of going into the e-governance path, is that we have been able to develop the capacity and the capability within the government to actually procure very sophisticated systems. The financial advisor understands what does procurement in e-governance means. Therefore, we have reached a stage where we can now leap from. If you look at the fabric of governance per se, when you introduce certain changes, it has a huge impact on that fabric and it rips it apart. To take some examples, as per the Indian laws, which were framed by the British, the land records are public records, are public information. But the moment you make them electronically available, you have suddenly made it possible for people to do a large-scale search and find out who owns what piece of land, and therefore, that's detrimental to the safety of many of the citizens. So what's the impact of that on regulation? How can we therefore go back and visit the regulations such that we don't make this society a more dangerous society by bringing in e-governance? Or for that matter, when we are talking about healthcare, how are we using technology to really monitor healthcare and connect it to Make in India? Therefore, what we are driving at is when we are talking about e-Kranti, it's much beyond just an application being delivered. It's talking about new technology models coming in. So the technology models are changing dramatically. Along with that, the operational models are changing. Along with that, the regulatory framework has to change. So with that, I'll hand it over to the next speaker.
You might be knowing about the National E-Governance Plan. So let me discuss how this plan has fared so far, where we stand today, and why did we think of e-Kranti at all in the first place. So if you take the current NEGP framework, we have 31 projects, out of which 24 are live and operational. So by any standards, it has been a fairly good success. And in terms of the transactions, we are delivering about 90 lakh transactions per day, only for these 24 projects. So we are touching the life of about 27 to 28 crore citizens in the country every month through these projects. But have we reached the desired impact? The answers are no. So this is where we need to create an impact, and this is the reason why we thought of e-Kranti in the first place, which aims at first expanding the portfolio of the projects under the National E-Governance Plan. Second, as was pointed out, newer models of technology have come, newer methods of implementation have emerged. They need to be incorporated. For example, mobile-based delivery of services. This was not part of the current framework for e-governance. This has become now part of e-Kranti as an integral part of this entire framework. Second, cloud-based models, which make it easier for departments to host applications instead of spending time on buying hardware, setting up the ICT infrastructure. They can now focus on just developing the applications and hosting them and going live in the minimum possible time. Third, we want to ensure that through e-Kranti, we bring transformation and not just translation, which is happening in most cases till now. So the tools for this are to do extensive government process re-engineering to ensure that the departments take full advantage of the ICT intervention and not just end up manually translating the physical processes into computer domain. Fourth is to ensure that the services are integrated at the back end so that the citizen can avail through a single front end a host of services, a suite of services. Fifth is to ensure that the services become interoperable. This is a big problem now because of the legacy system that we have in the country, which leads to the problem of services not being really interoperable. For this, we need to follow standards. We have mandated standards in a number of domains, which we hope, if implemented properly, can lead to services being interoperable, applications being interoperable. And we hope that with these interventions, under the Digital India framework, all the departments will take up this challenge and derive full advantage of the ICT-based interventions to ensure that their services could be delivered electronically to citizens?
Sir. One of the important components which comes into mind, or which basically is mainly targeting to bring out the digital India in the country, is the enhancement of the citizens to understand what basically digital India will mean, which means basically how they can put to the use the various applications being delivered or developed by the government of India or the state governments. Now what is happening is, if you see, we are not able to reap the real fruits of the applications. And one of the reasons is that we are not able to make our citizens basically digitally literate. And that is one of the biggest challenge which we are finding. And that is the reason what is happening is, we have come out with number of policies on the skill development of the citizens, which include, let's say, one person per family as a digitally literate. Maybe family may not be literate, but the family should be digitally literate, which means they should be able to understand how to surface or how to go to a website, how to download something, how to apply online. This is one. Now, beside this basically scheme we go, it means we are targeting, if we take a population of 120 million and if we divide by 4 family size, it means we are targeting around to train 30 million citizens through this concept. Now, similarly, the second pillar which is there in the digital India is Make in India. And that basically means that we have to concentrate on making manufacturing within the country. Rather, I will say we should not think of Make in India, rather we should think of Design in India and Design for India. And to take care of that scheme, basically we have targeted that we will train 15,000 youth in the electronic sector design manufacturing in each state. Now, the third project which we are basically driving for capacity building is to target to train 1 crore Indians within the country in the next 5 years on digital literacy concepts. We are trying to work out, because technology is changing, we are going for a virtual classroom concepts also. We are even targeting that we will go for an online open source concept of education, which means the course concept will be planned, the course curriculum will be designed, there will be a course detail available on the website. Anybody can download and anybody can use it out for his own learning. Now, to make this all effective, it is very essential that these courses are being designed or developed in the local language. And rather, not only develop the course content in local language, they have to be picture-based, video-based. We are very open to tie up with the private industry. And similarly, we are trying to sign an MOU with other partners who are from the industry background, just to understand that how we can put the youth to the maximum use so that they become ready to use by the industry.
Let me first talk about why sort of e-Kranti is important and how we translate it. It's about meaningful use of technology, and I again stress on meaningful use of technology to enable transparency, accountability, efficiency, especially in poverty alleviation programs or the programs which are intended for the mass citizen services. The Government of India spends close to 1.25 lakh crores on food security program alone. That's around $20 billion annually. Government of India and its various departments also admit that almost 88% of that money does not reach the right beneficiary. If you do the maths, it's mind-boggling. That is why it's very important for initiatives like Digital India to succeed. But the question is more about why some of these succeed and why a lot of them fail, and what can we do to sort of really fix that problem. So the three things which come to my mind in terms of the challenges when we talk about e-Kranti kind of initiatives. First is literally fuzzy milestones when you talk about large-scale deployments. And that is one of the biggest reasons why you see a lot of talk about largest IT players literally not looking at government as a fruitful business opportunity. When you engage on a large-scale project, your risk exposure is very high, and the milestones are so fuzzy that you end up literally going in a dispute as to whether you have really delivered what you started out to deliver. Second thing is the checkbox approach, and this is like really baffling. So when you go and speak with any government department on, hey, do you have, say, a GIS system? They'll say, yes, we have. And when you go and check it, it'll be a scanned map, and that's GIS. If you talk about open data, people will say, yes, we have opened the data. Now, when you go to an open data website and try to look at the data, that data is actually scanned images of PDF. I mean, come on, are we kidding ourselves? I mean, is that what open data is about? And the third thing which is very interesting, and it has been slightly talked about also, is how the government is prepared to pay for technology. We keep talking about mobile technology and how it is easy to quickly adopt and implement and deliver very interesting services in a very, very short time. But how do you sort of enable payment for these mechanisms? That said, I think it's very important to stay committed to this because A, there is business opportunity, and B, the impact of what you do when working with government is simply amazing, because the reach you have in terms of making lives better for so many people is just very humbling.
Thank you, Vishal. It was wonderful to hear various points of view. So I thought, like, as a moderator, I'll just try to trigger some of thoughts, some of questions in your mind and get specific answers. You know, when Chakravarti, when you started in the beginning, you said about some innovative solution that we need to think about to make the whole, revolution reach all the way. So can you just highlight one or two so that it is there in the mind for the people to participate?
We have to reach to almost 1 billion mobile handsets. It's not just, again, I would repeat, it is not just access or taking it to the last mile. How do you deliver as a network technology? There are only 3 levels of protocols known currently, which is broadcast, which the television uses very effectively to reach out to every home. Then comes unicast, which is, again, effectively used, but it's a bandwidth multiplier. So if your architecture is going to be delivered on unicast, then you will not reach out to that level of data or that level of video services that you intend to offer right to the village level. And I'll give an example to elucidate this. The third known protocol that is known is multicast. Multicast has been effectively used worldwide into military services. The National Stock Exchange of India does data multicast, and it's at 99.97% uptime. So if you integrate that level, whereas the current NOFN, with a slight amount of tweaking, with incorporation of multicast in the routers that it supports, can be tweaked to make it multicast enabled. So instead of trying to figure out how much of pipe capacity we increase, we can actually kind of deliver that. And to give you an example, what is the difference between multicast and what is unicast for people who may not have the technology in broadcast, very simply, if you have a set-top box, any television program that's aired, you can catch that. So I cannot prevent anyone, if you have a set-top box and a channel is airing, that we do that. In multicast, I can ensure that it reaches the homes of 10 people that I decide to go and not the mass. So that's at level 1. Level 2, in the device level. Do we have thinkers who are thinking in the process that, let's take the human being and the mobile handset. When you require knowledge, you pick up a book, you take in whatever you require for the next day's presentation, and then shelve it. The mobile has got limited processing power. It also has a limitation in bandwidth. So can we keep the intelligence of the mobile on the cloud, bring it when it is required, and send it back when it's not required? Are we thinking of architectures at that level? And it's perfectly possible and doable, and we are doing it here.
So, Dr. Rajendra Kumar, one question, because you are the one from the government. What are the kind of initiative you're doing to bring this innovation a part of this whole 9 pillars that you're trying to do? What is the kind of participation that you're getting or expecting or encouraging from the private sector to actively participate?
The effort to involve industry is at all levels. In our department's activities, in the activities of the Department of Telecom, which is implementing the NOFN project, which he mentioned. And our goal is to ensure that the government department and government entities, they benefit from the latest technology that the private sector can bring to the table for implementation, for conceptualization. And also they benefit from the PPP-based models in terms of investments. The efforts that we have made, especially in this direction, are to prepare a model template for the process, the RFP templates, what we call them. So this makes the process of involving the private sector easier for the government departments, because they already have a ready-made template for use in their own domains. Digital India is a much wider framework which involves cross-cutting activities across multiple departments, which need, in my opinion, the expertise from the private sector. And that's the goal that we have, and we are trying our best to achieve that goal.
Fantastic. Jayadut, you are been one of the veterans in the industry for a long time. Would you sort of highlight what are some kind of problems that the industry has faced in active participation? And is there any suggestion that you would like to give with respect to sort of alleviating these things?
Industry expects that the relationship with the government is that of a partner. And to extend that even further, we have had solutions and initiatives which were on technically on a PPP basis, on a public-private partnership basis. I think the challenge that the industry is facing is that in that partnership, the industry is not really seen as a partner. And to be fair, a lot has been achieved in the last 10, 15 years in spite of this notion that, that the industry is not really seen as a partner. We need to somehow figure out institutional mechanisms to come out of this lower orbit, come to a higher orbit, where we have the best of breed solutions, the best of breed thought processes coming in, and at a costing which makes sense for the industry, in a mechanism which is financially sustainable and therefore from a business perspective sustainable, and which also leads to a more capacity being built up in the private sector.
Fantastic. I mean, it's sort of, we heard a lot of interesting views, and it's almost time for us to wrap up. So what I'll do now is I'll just sort of summarize the kind of thoughts that we heard from all of you. I want to sort of wind up with the hope that we are reaching the tipping point. A lot of things have been put in place. A lot of effort is being made to sort of touch the issue of infrastructure on one side, policy on the other side, as well as education on the other side. And we all hope that that is going to really make the tipping point for us. Thank you.
Okay.